Hello and good day everyone. I am Catherine Quilinguen, a third-year student of Bachelor of Elementary Education. Welcome again to my channel. Today, you will learn an interesting information in the subject of ED301, the school and the curriculum. We will focus on Chapter 4, Module 5, Lesson 2, entitled as Curriculum Through Learning Assessment. But my partner, Margie Arkitani, had already discussed the other concepts. Now, in this video, it is the continuation or the Part 2. Here we will find out that learning outcomes can be measured through the use of different assessment tools, and as a future teachers, you should also understand and interpret the grading system that has been derived from assessment of learning. The learning outcomes. Types of tests to measure knowledge, process, and understanding. The first is objective test, which was already discussed. Now, the second is subjective test. The learning outcomes, which indicate learners' ability to originate and express ideas, is difficult to test through objective type tests. Of course, it's really difficult to express our ideas because objective test is only require one and one correct answer. Hence, in subjective type tests, answers through reflections, insights, and opinion can be given through essay. Under the subjective test is essay. Essay test items allow students freedom of response. Students are free to select, relate, and present ideas in their own words. The type of answers would reflect the extent of the learner's knowledge of the subject matter, ability to use higher order thinking skills, and express ideas in an accurate, creative, and appropriate language. Under the essay, we have the restricted response item. This is like an expanded form of short answer type of objective test. There is a limit on both the content, scope, and the form of student response. Also, this is most useful test in measuring the learning outcomes that require the interpretation and application of data in a specific area. This is the example of restricted response item. Next is the extended response item, where the student is generally free to select any factual information that can help in organizing the response. The contents of an extended essay will depend on the analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and other higher order thinking skills of the test takers. Here's the example of extended response item. Types of essay that measure complex learning outcomes. In each type of essay test item, here are the examples of complex learning outcomes that can be measured. For the restricted response essay items, we have here the ability to explain cause-effect relationships, describe application of principles, formulate valid conclusion, enumerate and explain methods and procedure. For the extended response essay items, it is the ability to organize ideas, integrate learning, design an experiment, and evaluate the worth of ideas. Assessment tools to measure authentic learning performance and products, or KPAP. The level 4 of the learning outcomes in KPAP can be assessed through performance or product. These learning outcomes can best be done through the use of authentic evaluation. When we say authentic evaluation, it is a test that measures real-life tasks, performances, and actual products, and the most common of the authentic assessments are the performance assessment and the use of portfolio. Performance assessment tools. There are three types of assessment tools: the checklist, rating scale, and rubrics for portfolio. First is checklist. Checklist is a tool that consists of a list of qualities that are expected to be observed as present or absent. The presence is to be marked as check, and the absence is marked as X. So for example, checklist on the use of microscope. The second is the rating scale. Rating scale is a tool that uses a scale and a number line as a basis to estimate the numerical value of a performance or a product. The value is easier to score if the points are in whole numbers. The most popular rating scale is called Likert scale. Likert scale is a 5 or 7-point scale which is used to allow individuals to express how much they agree or disagree with a particular statement. So this is an example of Likert scale. And another example of rating scale is the rating scale for a science project. Third is the rubrics for portfolio. A portfolio is defined as a compilation of the experiences as authentic learning outcomes presented with evidence and reflections. To assess the total learning experiences as presented in a holistic package, an assessment tool called a rubric is utilized. Example is the suggested rubric for a field study course portfolio. Levels of assessment for the levels of learning outcomes. Levels of assessment describe levels of the learning outcomes, which are knowledge, process, understanding, and products or performances. When we say knowledge, it is the substantive content of the curriculum, the facts and information that the students acquires. Process is the skills or cognitive operations that the student performs on facts and information for the purpose of constructing meanings or understandings. Understanding, it is enduring big ideas, principles, and generalizations inherent to the discipline which may be assessed using the facets of understanding which may be specific to the discipline. Then the products or performances is the real-life application of understanding as evidenced by the student's performance of authentic tasks. The levels of learning outcomes are also used to describe the levels of assessment. Through the DepEd Order 73, Series 2012, levels of learning outcomes are also the levels of assessment. In other words, the levels of assessment follow also the levels of thinking skills from lower level to higher level. Now we have here a table that describes what to test or assess, type of assessment, percentage value in assessment in every levels of learning outcomes assessment. For the knowledge, we have here who, what, when, how, and why. Then the type of assessment is pencil and paper or non-paper and pencil. Then a percentage of 15%. For the process of skills, it is a constructed meaning from knowledge. It's also a pencil and paper or non-paper and pencil. It is a percentage of 25%. For understanding, it is explanations, interpretations, applications, empathy, perspective, and self-knowledge, big ideas, principles, and generalization. It is also a pencil and paper and a percentage of 30%. And lastly, the products or performance, transfer of understanding to life situations as products or performance. It is checklist or rating scale and a percentage of 30%. So the total of percentage value in assessment is 100%. For further understanding of the use of assessment tools in every level of learning outcomes or assessment, I have here another table. Under the knowledge, the assessment tools is traditional tools such as paper and pencil tests. And for the process or skills, it is transform a textual presentation into a diagram. Then outline, organize, analyze, interpret, translate, convert, or express information. Under it is the flowchart, construct graphs, graphic organizers, and draw analogies. Then for the understanding, we have facets of understanding that it was already discussed in the previous table. And for the products and performances, which is authentic products or performance tasks that a student is expected to do too, such as demonstrate his or her understanding, like self-understanding, self-monitoring, and so on. So as a future teachers, it is really important to know the use of appropriate assessment tools in each level of learning outcomes or assessment. For additional information, we have here what we call Table of Specification. It is developed to help the teachers in task construction, and it should reflect the levels of learning outcomes provided. Also, it defines as a tool used to ensure that a task or assessment measures the content and thinking skills that the task intends to measure. Now, we have the sample table of specification matrix for a periodical test for third quarter, where we can see the different levels of assessment, the tools, and the highest scores and weights in a percentage form. For another example, we have here the sample matrix of a periodical summative test result in the third quarter, where we can see the different tools in each different assessment level, the highest possible score, the scores earned or what we call the results of their scores, and the percent weight of scores, and the percent value of score, in which the total we can see the composite score. Placing value to assessment results from KPAP DepEd Order 73 Series 2012 to written work, performance task, quarterly exam. DepEd Order 8 Series 2015. While the KPAP is still utilized in the grading system, however, it has been slightly modified by WW2PT to QE. So, from the KPAP grading system, it changed into WW2PT to QE. A summative assessment is composed of written work, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. Components of summative assessment. In written work components, the purpose is assess learners' understanding of concepts and application of skills in written form and prepare learners for quarterly assessments, and it will be given at the end of the topic or unit. For the component of performance tasks, the purposes are involve students in the learning process individually or in a collaboration with teammates over a period of time, then give students opportunities to demonstrate and integrate their knowledge, understanding, and skills about topics or lessons learned in a specific real-life situation by performing and or producing evidence of their learning. Then give students the freedom to express their learning in appropriate and diverse ways. And lastly, encourage students' inquiry integration of knowledge, understanding, and skills in various contexts beyond the assessment period. And this will be given at the end of the lesson, focusing on the topic or skill lesson, and also several times during the quarter. In the component of quarterly assessment, the purpose is synthesize all the learning skills, concepts, and values learned in an entire quarter, and this will be given once at the end of the quarter. Grades at the end of the school year and how these are computed. In kindergarten, use of checklists, anecdotal records, and portfolios are used instead of numerical grades, which are based on kindergarten curriculum guide. For grade 1 to grade 10 or junior high, the average of the quarter grades produce the end of the year grade. The general average is computed by dividing the sum of all final grades by the total numbers of learning areas. Each learning area has equal weight. Here's the grading system of grade 1 to grade 10, where in every subject, they have their own percentage of written work, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. Grade 11 and grade 12 or senior high. The average of the quarterly grade produces the semester grade. The general average is computed by dividing the sum of all semestral final grades by the total number of learning areas and the senior high school grading components. For the grade 11 and grade 12 grading system, it was divided into two tracks, the academic track and the technical, vocational, and livelihood or TVL, in which their core subjects are all the same, but in all other subject and work immersion or research or exhibit, they have different percentage based on their written work, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. So as you can see, in the technical vocational track, we can see that they have more percentage in their performance. Reporting summative grades by quarter or semester or end of the year. Interpretation of the numerical values for all subject areas is based on the minimum initial grade of 60, transmuted into an equivalent of 75 in the report card. The numerical grades are described in the different levels of proficiency in the different competencies set in the subject areas. The performance of the students shall be described in the report card based on the following levels of proficiency. Levels of proficiency: advanced, proficient, approaching proficiency, developing, and beginning. Advanced. The student at this level exceeds the core requirements in terms of knowledge, skills, and understandings and can transfer them automatically and flexibly through authentic performance tasks. Proficient. The student at this level has developed the fundamental knowledge and skills and core understandings and can transfer them independently through authentic performance tasks. Approaching proficiency. The student at this level has developed the fundamental knowledge and skills and core understandings and with little guidance from the teacher and or with some assistance from peers can transfer these understandings through authentic performance tasks. Developing. The student at this level possesses the minimum knowledge and skills and core understandings, but needs help throughout the performance of authentic tasks. And lastly, beginning. The student at this level struggles with his or her understanding, prerequisite and fundamental knowledge and or skills have not been acquired or developed adequately to aid understanding. Now, in every level of proficiency descriptors, there is a grading scale based on transmuted values. For advanced, it is 90% and above. Proficient is 85% to 89%. Approaching proficiency is 80% to 84%. Developing 75% to 79%, and beginning is below up to 74%. We usually see this in our report card during the end of semester, quarter, and the end of the school year. That's all for this video, and I hope you learned something. Stay safe and God bless always. Thank you.